So this is a perfect example about the problems of game design. I'll get to the big problem in a minute here, but first, the conversation's been really good both on YouTube and TikTok on this. And this is why I like making these posts and talking about this, because it helps me think about this. But so God of War gets called out a lot about this one, about getting called out too much. Some people had Indiana Jones was calling out too much, and some people it was not enough, right? And some people missed the whole thing with the camera, and some people didn't. So it is really, really, really hard with games to get this right. And in fact, this one exchange here is my favorite on this, and this is not a knock on either one of these people. I think I've already posted this before, but the TF2, the characters screaming about needing to get on the point could have been toned down a bit. It has 1+ or 1 thumbs up. The next comment responding to that is hard disagree, and that one's got 6 thumbs up. Because that's it. Everybody has its own personal thing. Now the calling out on the point, there's some of those are to indicate that somebody's on the point, that somebody's not on the point, that you're losing the point. Like there's a whole bunch of different ones. That's why you hear them so often. And if you play enough, you start to understand what they're actually talking about with them, hopefully. Yeah, maybe not. Right? Because sometimes vocals I think of like as sound effects more than actual information. And so those in particular though are calling out for alerting about state changes. And so it's just funny that one person can hate them and one person can love them. And that is the problem with game design, because you can put a lot of sliders on a lot of things to help people like, hey, I like this more. I want to hear the volume, turn the volume down. I want closed captioning on. But like, how much do you want to be prompted? That's why I thought the camera was a neat device, because if you take a picture of something, then it tells you the clue. But if you missed that prompt and you didn't get that, then some of those early puzzles are probably pretty hard. But also, one of the things you'll see is some people are talking about sometimes modern games now throw up just a bunch of like, the minute you do something, they're like, hey, did you know you have a health bar? Because you never had a health bar before in your life. You have no idea what that is. I call those joystick up commands or notes. Because like everyone knows joystick up goes up, joystick down is down. I don't really need to duck underneath another log in my life, because it's either going to be C, it's going to be control, or I'm going to hit space and I'm going to jump over it. Right? Like, that's kind of my choices there. I don't need to be really chained that again. Or do I? Am I just not seeing enough playtesters of people struggling with that they don't know how to get through that and they just keep bumping their heads against logs? I don't know. And I can say that here and people will give me feedback on what they think, but you have to do it in the wild. You have to see what happens. And another thing with like all those prompts that shoot you right away that happens is I think that's a fallout from when you're working on a game, you often will put like a modal menu up. So I'm working on something single player. I've talked about this. It's like a little personal thing. And I have this little thing that comes up early on, which is essentially like, hey, here's some stuff. It's all the obvious stuff, but it's like you can upgrade these things. These are all things that like you can invest in. You have a exoskeleton, and that exoskeleton can be upgraded. And these are some of the ways. And I went back and forth and like, is this too granular? Is this too big? Should I throw one big one up that just tells you everything all at once? Should I do a bunch of little ones? You can use like these glasses essentially to tag things in the world. And one of the things I realized is I want to tag things into the world and allow you just to get information on them, so that if you don't know something, you can learn something. And I kind of like that. But again, it's like playtesting, and you put the big thing up in the beginning because you're like, I don't know. Here's all this stuff. Don't tell me about interpenetration bugs or Z fighting. I don't care about those right now. I care about this stuff. And like you put all this whole thing up there, and then you kind of just keep adjusting that, and you end up with all of these menus in the beginning versus like, I don't know, more integrated. So I go back and forth on that because then I've gone from having a character that was just going to talk for a little bit and then go away to, hey, why don't this character stay with you? Because they can explain a lot of the world to you. But then when you're doing localization, doing vocals is way harder than just doing these signs. And that's why I think a lot of times people just do menus and stuff, because you can localize that really easily. And also people can go back to those. So is it a mix? Is it like, hey, if I'm telling jokes while you have this information, you can look at it if you want. And then when you're done with it, it actually saves all of these and you can go back to them anytime. I like when you go back to tutorial hints. That's a thumbs up. So I'm thinking maybe that. And I'm a writer, right? So I always go back to wanting to put some flavor in there, and I kind of went from the silent protagonist. Definitely, you're not talking because the game's about things coming at you. But do you have a sidekick? Maybe. And there's a sidekick. I'm not gonna get into how it's with you, but there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and it's always like, how much information do I have to give you that you can test it, and how much do you not? And again, I think the one skill I have is I can play as a new player and be confused because I'm just not that bright. But I can play something I made and be like, I don't know what to do. But I can have at least those thoughts, and so I've been trying to go through every time I get those in this game, and I'm working on it to clear those up. And I'm just making this little test island kind of thing, like this little demo island I was going to share with some people. But even there, like right away, I get, and I come back and I decide I want it more because some of this is like what you've learned over time. One of the things you learned over time is to not just give people information in one place, but give it to them in multiple places. And that's why I'm surprised the camera wasn't mentioned again, but maybe it is. I don't know. Because I missed how to do the side missions at first. Because I'm with people, like, I don't want to learn. I'm like, I got enough. I think I can go forward. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. So it is always a balance. And it is always a balance that you wish you could playtest more, but it's really expensive. Not only is it really expensive playtesting more, it's really hard to get playtesters. Which again, this is not you don't have to do this. We don't get anything out of doing this. But if you join our Discord and if you're working on something, our people in our Discord will playtest your thing for free and give you feedback on it. And you can watch them, or they can do it on their own and send you it, whatever. But it's like one of those things I realize a lot of people don't have a community as big as we have, of like almost 5,000 people who can play test things. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do that. Now this feels like an ad for that, and I don't want to be that. So don't come to our Discord, discord.gg/DreBombay. Or come over there. But yeah, it is just a hard problem. And it is one of the reasons why I'm thinking this next thing, which is a single player thing, I want to just share out earlier and share with the community and not worry about publishers and all that stuff, and instead grow it organically so that you can get feedback. But it's a single player game, and are people going to want to keep going back and playing as things make changes, or do I need to always continually define new play tests? Like, it's hard. Again, that's a nice thing at Valve, man. You just send out the note that, hey, you're looking for play testers, and you just get a gajillion people. I don't know. Because you can just, if you go through the comments, read the comments and don't agree or disagree with any of them. Just read them with open eyes of saying everybody's right. Because that's what it's like to make a game.